I wanted to talk about the last Board of Ed meeting. I left there really upset because there was some conversation about a list of banned books. So the first thing I'm going to say is that there was no list of banned books. If there is one, please let me know so I'm not giving false information. The impression I got, and I asked the person who they said did the banned books, and what she wrote was, she said that the idea of these books was to establish clear guidelines in our school district so that books with obscene and pornographic content do not end up on the bookshelves of our school and classroom or libraries. And I think everybody can agree with that. You know, pornography and obscenity doesn't belong with minors. We're talking about minors here. We're not talking about anybody else in the world. I couldn't care less what anybody else does. So there was a book that was brought there. So what I did is I looked up that book. The Bible was read, and then this book was, I believe it was read, it was talked about. So I went to a site called ratedbooks.org. And this is an organization that rates books and gives reasons and examples for the ratings. Because I wanted to make sure, you know, I don't want to judge anything, and I certainly don't believe in banning books by any stretch of the imagination. But this book, the book that was brought to the last meeting, did get a 4. And a 4 is that it is not suitable for minors. And again, we're talking about minors here. We're talking about children. And the reason they gave a whole lot of passages that were very sexually explicit, that when I raised my kids, I would be darned if I want them reading that. I remember my son getting a hold of some stuff, and we had a really long conversation about the inappropriateness and the sexuality of women and just all of that stuff, you know. So we don't want this happening. I don't know when society started thinking this was okay, but it's not. The other thing, and this bothered me more than anything, this book provides 2 websites in it, one called Grindr and one called OkCupid. And it tells you how to get there, how to sign up, and what it is. And what these books are is for sexual activity with other people online. Okay, fine. Somebody wants to buy this book and get it, that's fine, but it doesn't belong with minors in the school system. That's my point here. This isn't about anything else except for pornographically explicit stuff in school systems, period. And that's what Janet was trying to talk about. Let's just have ratings. Let's look at these books. Let's read them and go, oh, yes, or oh, no, you know, do something about it. And on top of that, those websites, isn't that grooming? It's close to it. We all know. My grandkids are 13 and 10. And it's a nightmare nowadays. And some of you are teachers, and you're all parents. I think most of us here are parents. It's a nightmare, the internet now. It's really a problem. So why are we allowing, you know, we should be looking at these books to make sure that's not happening. But the biggest point I want to make is that someone said up here, okay, and all you people, I love you guys. I don't love you, but I know you work hard, you volunteer, you do this, and this is hard to do. But someone said that because of what Councilor Cushman had said, that they might be considered to be removed from a couple of committees that they are on for harming children. How on earth is it possible to try to say you're harming children when all you're trying to do is make sure books aren't getting in their hands? And in my opinion, for anybody who would think that was harming children, I think, what are you thinking? Where are your where are your morals and your morality and your caring about children? Harming children is letting them get a hold of these books without parental supervision and without, you know, if the parents want to let their kids read this book, that, you know, we can't control that. But I just wanted that out there. So thank you very much. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
That's turned on.
I want to take a moment to speak to the mentions, the comments from the audience this evening about a couple of very important things. Regarding the book ban, so do the homework on that topic, please. They do not exist on the shelves in our libraries. They have no place being on those shelves in our libraries, at our schools, unless they go through the process that is in place to review the materials that are brought into our school libraries. I want to say again, they are not on the shelves in our libraries.
Consider your sources
when you're thinking that maybe we should take action because this thing is very upsetting. And yes, if that thing was being taught at our schools, I would be just as upset as any responsible parent would be. But in the case of this issue, this is not something being taught in our schools, just like all the other things that are supposed to be all fired up about, and is not occurring. I've learned a lot after the fact. I have. I knew nothing of what I spoke of when we had our virtual meeting until after the fact. Shame on me for not having that awareness that was out there in the Facebook realm. I don't apologize for what I said because I stick to that.
But although movies and songs and other media have guidelines in place for what constitutes obscenity, surprisingly, there is no set criteria or guidelines that exist for books. At present, whoever is put in charge of reviewing library selection is able to make the decision. In order to be proactive and to protect our youth from this type of material being brought into our school and classroom libraries, I would like to propose that our district establish clear guidelines to define what constitutes obscenity in books. Having it as an agenda item at the next board meeting to at least start a conversation about it together would be a good first step. My comments last time about books, I noted that movies, television programs, music, video games, they all have ratings to define what constitute obscenity. But books remain without any guidelines, and they remain unrated. I'm not looking to ban books. I'm looking to encourage us as a district to define obscenity and to establish guidelines in our district for books that are provided to our students in classroom libraries. It's not motivated by politics, it's not motivated by religion, but by a desire to take seriously the responsibility that we have to protect our students.
A little while back, I bought a book myself. I bought this book January 27th, 2012, right after it was discussed on this dais as a opportunity to ban a book by the Board of Ed at that time. So I found it again, dusting it off and going through it again. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for your average third grader, for example. But it is not my responsibility to tell your third grader that. It is yours. It is not our place to tell the librarians who are on the payroll for the Board of Ed to do what I, as a person with my own beliefs, believe. It is that librarian's decision, expertise, that allows them the position to provide the reading materials to the population of the school and of the town so that they can consume what they choose to. It's an individual choice. So I do support the idea that perhaps people should find a list of books that upset other people and consume them voraciously.
At the risk of sounding repetitive, I hope to try to offer a better explanation. Since there are obscenity ratings for DVDs, one would never expect to find X-rated pornographic movies in school libraries. The rating makes it clear that such movies do not belong there. If found in any school library, it is certain movies of this nature would be swiftly challenged and removed, regardless of whether the actors in the film were engaging in heterosexual or homosexual activity. The same should be true of books. However, without such ratings or other guidelines, books that are considered pornographic are making their way into our school and classroom libraries across the nation. I believe it to be a valid concern that these books would be available to any student, regardless of their sexual orientation. Youth may have access to such material through their own personal devices, but when schools make this material available to students, whether through an online platform or hard copy materials, it gives students the impression that the content is valuable and beneficial, and that schools support and encourage it. This leads me to question, should schools encourage and normalize sexual behavior for any youth? Does teaching youth how to download and use sex apps with photos and location enabled, does that contradict the lessons in digital citizenship taught in our schools?
Not so long ago, I talked about asking for policy information on how to remove a board member from this dais, and followed up by the policy information that says there is no way to do that. They are elected, and as such, they are here for the duration of their terms unless they decide to step down. Most recent meetings, which you hear about during the committee reports, that email that Ms. Cushman mentioned was handed out to us as a document and not an email. Did not contain any sender information, any received, any of the typical things that identify a document as an email. So I did ask about that in the email to Ms. Cushman through the chair and the superintendent, I believe, and I apologize if it was only through the chairman. The chair, I have to check on that, but the information did not come back directly to me. It came back through the other members of the board that did receive the emailed as it was transferred between the sender and Ms. Cushman. Ms. Cushman felt it necessary to take steps to remove the sender's information to protect the senders, which is fine, I guess. But it does seem to be an issue that protecting a sender, for whatever reason, not sending the information as it was originally received, and I'm not in a position to say one way or the other. It just seems a little off the mark. We have such strict and stringent protocols in place to limit the access of inappropriate materials from our students while in the schools, while utilizing the technology that is necessary to get their education. We are not allowing them to access the inappropriate materials. Does it happen? Of course, I'm sure it does, because if there's a will, there's a way.